This episode of the MLB Guardcast is brought to us by NovaDigitalArts. Are you looking to spruce up your company's logo or website? Are you looking for help when it comes to digital arts and marketing? Look no further than NovaDigitalArts. You can check out their work at NovaDigitalArts at iCloud.com. Be sure to tell them the MLB Guardcast sent you. NovaDigitalArts, located in Greene, Ohio. Give our friend Derek a call at 234-716-1687. Nova Digital Arts, creating magic since 2007. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's that time again. It is time for another episode number 17 of the MLB Guardcast. I am Mike Vorhies. He is Bryan Shaw. Bryan, we could have used you yesterday. Our bullpen's going to need you. What's it going to take to get you out of retirement, off the White Sox, and back into the Guardians bullpen?
I think we could really use Tukey Toussaint too.
We'll do it. We'll do a 2-for-1.
They snatched up him after one start, and we had to put him on waivers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, before we talk about our wonderful Guardians, it is time for the second half of the Major League Baseball season. We just finished with the All-Star experience, the All-Star weekend. A quick recap for you guys. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. of the Toronto Blue Jays won the home run derby. I'm sorry, that's probably the most fun is that night watching everybody just hit bombs all night long. It is so much fun.
Oh yeah, when it was here in Cleveland, that was the event that I went to, and it was a blast. I do think that's the actual All-Star game itself, with so many guys kind of swapping in and out. Like
Right.
you're really only interested in your players, so you only see them for like an inning or two.
Right.
That's kind of hard to keep track of, but there's just you're right. The home run derby is just a lot of fun.
Alan Adley Rutschman he's a switch hitter. So what does he do? He hits home runs from both sides of the plate during his round, which was really, really good. But again, Vlad wins it. I mean, who was it? Julio Rodriguez. What he hit like 20 some in his round, and they were just absolute moonshots, which was it's so much fun to watch. You mentioned the All-Star game. Unfortunately, the American League, their winning streak has come to an end. The National League wins the game 3-2. Our lone representative, Jose Ramirez, got into the game late. He hit a double, and then unfortunately he I believe struck out to end the game against
some high heat that he whiffed on. I was a walk-off by Jose would have been something special. That would have been really nice.
Yeah, but he goes 1 for 2. Rockies catcher Elias Diaz wins the MVP. He hit a 2-run homer in the 7th that gave the National League the lead and then the win. So shout out to him.
I did see a cool stat. I think it's since 2017, Jose has the most hits in an All-Star game.
I did see that.
Like cumulative.
Yeah, it's because all he does is hit. I mean, he's probably one of the only ones. Camilo Doval of the Giants, he gets the win. Felix Bautista takes the loss. He plays for the Orioles. And then Craig Kimbrell, playing for yet another team, this time with the Phillies, he gets the save. So I have one quick question. So we know all of the major sports. Is the baseball All-Star festivities, is that kind of the league leader? I mean, when you look at the NFL, that game is probably the worst.
It's done now, and now it's just this.
Isn't it flag football?
Well, it's like this just kind of like events, where Myles Garrett was doing an obstacle course and dislocated his toe, and so they've completely gotten rid of all their things. The NBA, it's just a shoot fest. Nobody plays any defense.
The dunk contest used to be great, but
the dunk contest used to be good, but and it'd be great if like higher end players actually wanted to do it.
Yeah, not G League guys. What, the guy that won it last year hadn't even played in an NBA game yet. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I mean, hockey's is fun.
I was going to say, That's what I was going to
There's a
say is the
spot.
NHL's I don't pay a lot of attention to the NHL and I don't watch their All-Star game, but from what I know of it and from what NHL fans say of it, that it's the best.
Oh, it's fun. I mean, I don't get into the NHL unless it's playoff time. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of lucky with baseball. The game itself, though, I don't like how you get a guy for 2 at bats and that's it. I understand you got to get everybody in, but it's just not as fun. You want your
Yeah.
guys to do well, but you're facing top tier talent. So it's one of those things. It's a catch-22, but enough of the all-star discussion. It's time for some big injury news, Brian. We've kind of been good at avoiding this a little bit, but unfortunately yet
Not at this
another one.
position though.
No, this position tends to get it a lot. Shane Bieber goes on the 15-day injured list with right elbow inflammation. Reliever Michael Kelly was called up again to take his roster spot. We're now down 2 of our top pitchers in our rotation. Bieber joins Tristan McKenzie, who may not pitch again this year. So Brian, quick, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who makes the start for Bieber tomorrow in Pittsburgh?
Well, it was supposed to be Xavier Curry, but they pitched him yesterday.
Yep.
So, um,
I'm going to go with the
Peyton
infamous.
Battenfield's hurt.
Yeah, he's on rehab assignments. I know he's due to come off
What
the
about
injured list
Hunter
very soon.
Gaddis?
We could be Hunter Gaddis, but I'm going to go with the easiest option of them all. There's going to be a bullpen game on Monday. That is my
Well,
guess.
and that's why I said Xavier because it was supposed to be a bullpen game with Xavier getting the start and kind of going the
Right, him
longer
being
part of that.
the opener.
But you kind of taxed to the bullpen the last couple of games.
And then we're
So
going to talk. We'll
I don't know how
talk
you're going to
about
do
that.
that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens on Monday. Currently, our Guardians are 45 and 47 after dropping the first 2 games of our series currently with the Rangers in Texas, including yesterday when they were shut out for the 9th time this year. You can't win if you don't score runs, and we are having an issue offensively, not scoring runs, and we're making guys with, ERAs of 6, 7. We're making them look like Cy Young. It's ridiculous. But 9 shutouts. We lead Major League Baseball in those shutouts. What are we going to do? The offense needs to figure it out because we can't play bad teams all season. The schedule gets harder.
Let's start with guys like, why is Gabriel Arias on this team right now? He has had
question.
3 plate appearances since June 25th and none since the 4th of July. So why is he just sitting on the bench taking up a roster spot? Why not bring somebody up from AAA who can pinch hit or can play consistent? And there is a guy that's tearing the cover off the ball right now. We've been screaming for him for a good 3 weeks.
And he lives in a pineapple under the sea, and that's Oscar Gonzalez. And
he hit another home run last night.
281 now, 10 home runs, 49 RBIs. Obviously, he started the year with the Guardians, just looked awful at the plate. They sent him down. It's safe to say that he has figured it out.
Do you have his lefty split there?
I do not. I'm sure it's insane because
he's crushing lefties.
Yeah, we've been calling for him to come up because our wonderful team decides to put Gabriel Arias, who can't hit lefties well, in against lefties, and like Will Brennan, who does hit lefties well, doesn't play. So it's one of those just baffling things. Arias is a guy that can play all over the field, and I think that's the only reason he's still on this team.
But he's not even playing. That's the thing.
Well,
is like
and that's
he comes in different in occasional defensive positions,
right?
He's pinch running
first or right.
But
right
Fry
field.
and Freeman can cover all the infield spots as well, and they've been playing Fry a lot more than they've been playing Arias. So, and then they've also
because Fry's actually hitting the ball when he plays, but he can't field because he made yet another error. Was it yesterday? Was it Friday? He caught the ball in foul territory on a foul, a guy fouls out, and then he throws the ball in, and I don't know who he was throwing to. Was nobody there. Another error, guys moved up. Just a defensive lapse with David Fry, but Fry's not an outfielder.
Right.
He's a catcher, he's an infielder, he's played first, he's played third. He catches outfield is not in his repertoire. So you say Gabriel Arias, and I'm going to say the same thing about Tyler Freeman. Why are they here if they're not going to play? Freeman plays once every 5 days.
Freeman has played more. I agree. He should be playing more. And if anybody deserves more at bats, it's Tyler Freeman, because even though he plays once a week, he's been hitting. He consistently hits every game. He's coming in and getting 2 hits.
Right. Or he'll steal a base, or you can't expect guys to sit for 4 to 5 days and then come in and be amazing. Freeman has kind of been the exception to that.
Yeah.
But these guys need to be playing more. I mean, we're loaded at middle infielder. I feel like we talk about that every episode.
We do.
That the train's coming, and it's got more people on it that eventually are going to come up to the major leagues, and we're going to have to play them. But in order for you to do that, you've got to lose some players.
Well, and now we have the trade deadline coming up. The whole Bieber thing throws a complete wrench in everything. I think.
He'll be ready to be activated prior to the trade deadline, which is August 1st.
But he'll need a rehab assignment.
Potentially.
And who? Yeah. Do you really think anybody's going to give you any sort of assets for a guy who just spent time on the injured list?
I think that, so we joked about this early on this year when we started discussing the potential Bieber possibility. I think now we've gotten our answer that he's going to be dealt in the offseason. Because I agree with you. What team is going to package something together for a guy who may or may not be 100%? I mean, obviously, when Bieber's on, he's one of the best. Hasn't been the strikeout guy that we're used to, but he's been okay. I mean, he's been decent for us this year.
But I've been listening to a lot of national stuff and like in hearing interviews from different perspectives, not just Cleveland, like Chris Rose and some guys like that.
Chris Rose is from here. He's a Cleveland guy through and through.
But he has connections from MLB Network and things like that. And he's been saying, like, while he does expect Bieber to get dealt, like, everybody sees the same thing. Everybody sees he's not the Cy Young pitcher that he was. Everybody sees that his advanced metrics show that he's been getting hit hard and he has those kinds of issues. So that value isn't necessarily there. And, it with this injury, we'll have to see how long it is and how bad he's actually hurt. But you almost wonder if now he's regretting not signing an extension when he could have.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Bieber's no longer the top of the rotation kind of guy. He's a mid, maybe he's a 3-4 in the rotation. He's no longer an ace.
Yeah, I heard it was another national guy, I forget his name, but he basically, I think he's was like the Texas Rangers broadcaster, or has affiliations with the Texas Rangers in some aspect. And he had said the same thing, like Bieber on a good team, Bieber is like a 2-3 in the rotation.
And, we all thought that Tristan McKenzie was going to be our number 1, and then unfortunately he gets hurt and he's out. And again, we don't know if he'll be back this year.
Of the original starting 5, right now all we have is Savali, and Savali spent a lot of time on the injured list.
And we'll talk about Savali. I think you and I had that conversation. Why in the world did Savali get pulled after 5 innings Friday night? He was only at 79 pitches, and then apparently the bullpen implodes once he leaves the game and we take a loss in that game. Although the Naylor brothers, which I'm hoping we will see more frequently, they both hit home runs in a game. So Mario and Luigi both hit a home run in a game. It's the first time that's happened since the Upton brothers of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, I believe back in 2006. So I think that's great when you have,
super cool.
It is.
It's unfortunate then it like full on implosion.
The bullpen. And I know you said our bullpen is ranked. I know you put it out on Twitter. The bullpen's ranked second in ERA, but
second
I want to know where they're at in innings pitched, because that bullpen.
Let's find it.
that bullpen is getting taxed. You talk about the trade deadline. Obviously the Bieber injury will change things a bit. I think the next this series and then the next two will determine what we're going to do. The next two are against Pittsburgh and the Pirates, and then the Phillies. Cleveland, obviously no one wants to run away with our Central Division. We're only a game and a half back of the Twins. No one wants to make a run. The Twins are playing Oakland. I'd have thought that the Twins would have blown this thing wide open at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't. The White Sox aren't great. Detroit, Kansas City.
Well, and that's the thing is
nobody's running away with it.
I don't really want to limp into the playoffs. I just
You're
don't think
it's shelled.
I think it's pointless. So believe it or not, our bullpen is, why can't I find us? 18th in innings pitched.
That's a lot though. Because usually you want to be towards the top, correct?
I mean, no, like the highest is the Oakland A's. So the lowest innings pitched for bullpen is Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
The Mets are 21st, Braves are 19th, and then Cleveland is 18th. So the highest is the Oakland A's.
And the Braves are the best team in baseball right now. And I mean, we took one game from them.
Well, and so that's the difference, because I made another comparison. So no bullpen has an ERA under 3 in Major League Baseball.
Right.
The Braves are the first, or the Yankees are the first, and it's like 3-2, and we're like 3-3, something like that.
I think it's the Braves. I think the Braves ERA for their bullpen is 3-2. So the Yankees are kind of mid this year.
Yeah. ERA is it's over 9 innings. So if you have an ERA of 3, that means when your bullpen's pitching the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, you're expected to give up a run. That's your average. 1 run over those 3 innings. Well, when you're constantly having these games where there are only 1-run leads or no run leads, then that's why you're going to have all these blown games by the bullpen, because you can't expect them to be perfect every time. The offense is 27th in runs scored.
Yeah, I joked that when it comes to this trade deadline, and I'll talk about it here in a second, I don't know whether the Guardians will be buyers or sellers. I think it all will depend on where we're at after our time against the Pirates and the Phillies. If the offense doesn't figure it out, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we're sellers and that we're just going to prepare for next season, especially now with 2 starters being down, the offense is struggling. Again, you don't want to limp into the playoffs, because if the playoffs started today, I think we're out. We were in a couple of days ago, but that was when we were in first place heading into the All-Star break. I don't even believe we have a wild card spot at this point.
No, the wild card would be coming out of the East.
If we were if we were leading the division,
we're a game and a half back on Minnesota.
Okay. So yeah, we would open, if we were in first place, we'd open at home against the Houston Astros
and just get boat raced.
Well, I mean, it's again, so
why don't you give me both scenarios? If we're buyers, what do you want to do? If we're sellers, what do you want to do?
Okay, I'll start if we're sellers. I think if we're sellers, you're going to want to get some young guys in, and you're going to want to give it bats to Gabriel Arias and Tyler Freeman, and Bo Naylor will catch a whole lot more than what he's doing now. I think it starts with, you would trade, if you're sellers, you will trade Shane Bieber. A team will need, if you can't trade Shane Bieber, then you trade Ahmed Rosario. He would be next on my list.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Rosario, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Rosario's not back here next year.
He's a free agent. Yeah, he won't be.
Right,
you have too many infielders to bring him back.
With the depth that we have, he doesn't have a roster spot.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say is I think Arias needs to do the Oscar Gonzalez, go to AAA, play every single day.
Yeah. That's where we would start. I would call up Oscar Gonzalez, put him in right field and platoon him with Will Brennan. Or I would move Will Brennan to center field and play Oscar in right, and then Miles Straw as your pinch runner defensive replacement because he just looks lost at the plate. I know that we were very excited when we traded for him. I mean, Phil Matten for Miles Straw doesn't really turn a lot of heads when we made that deal. But Miles is a heck of a defender. He controls center field extremely well. The offense just isn't there. He can steal bases. We know he runs well. He plays defense really well. He's just not an offensive guy. So that's starting there. And then I would send Gabriel Arias down, let him finish the season in AAA and kind of figure it out. You trade Ahmed Rosario, Tyler Freeman then becomes your starting shortstop, and you see what you have. Bo Naylor catches. I'd even say goodbye to Cam Gallagher. Heck of a backup, but he's not really moving the needle much as a backup. Fry could potentially just be the backup catcher, and you take off.
I agree with all that. I 100%.
The bullpen.
The only other thing I would add is if it's possible is you move David Bell. Now I sent you a bunch
Josh
of
Bell. Bell doesn't. David Bell coaches the Cincinnati Reds. You can't trade a coach. Not yet, at least.
Josh Bell.
Not for another team. Yeah.
I sent you a bunch of statistics that make me believe Josh Bell is going to come around to the second half. However, he makes a lot of money. He does have an option, a player option for next year. If he's dealable, he's dealable. And because, like you said, you're retooling for next year and you're setting up for next year. And then what that does is that just opens up another opportunity for another young guy to get at bats if you've moved on from Josh Bell.
Because you can move Jose Ramirez to DH. You can give him some time off from third base. Naylor could DH. You've got some options. But now here's my wish list. I put together a wish list of some potential trade options I would love our Cleveland Guardians to go after. Number one on the list, and this is after Friday night's game, when our bullpen just completely imploded. I know we joked. You said we didn't need a bullpen arm. I'm going to tell you we need one, possibly two. First one I'd like to go get is reliever closer for the Pittsburgh Pirates, David Bednar. Bednar is 3-1 with a 1.27 ERA, 17 saves. Here's why I want Bednar. Emmanuel Clase has now blown 7 saves. Clase comes in when the games are 1-0, 1-1, 2-2, like
extra innings.
We're not giving him run support. And he's now taking on a huge hit. He's also blown some games that he should have won or should have saved. And we need help in that pen. Here's a name that I'd like to add in that trade, and that would be your boy Bryan Reynolds. It's twofold there.
It's a
big ask. It's a big ask, but the Pirates again are always retooling. They have a bunch of young players. I know Bryan Reynolds just signed an extension.
Yeah, I can't see them moving.
The Pirates are doing this. They are slowly falling off the face of the earth. And I thought, hey, if we're going to trade with the Pirates, let's engage them and say, hey.
Does he have a no trade clause? I feel like
I think he has a limited trade clause. I think he can select where he goes.
When guys sign extensions, usually they want no trade clauses. So I will see.
Hey.
So the only reason I say no to bullpen is because I feel like we have far more pressing needs. Unless like you're getting these guys for super cheap, like some single A player or rookie baller or something.
Or our plethora of middle infielders?
No, because I'd rather use that to upgrade other positions of more pressing need.
Well, you would like a bat then. I have the perfect bat in mind, and he currently plays in our division. Would they be willing to make a deal? Let's find out. I would like for us to go get Luis Robert of the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox are terrible. Luis Robert is hitting 271 with 26 home runs, 51 RBIs, and he plays center field. And he would be an amazing bat to put in the middle of that lineup. I think, and I know he is 20, I think he's 26 or 27. The White Sox have a bunch of young talent they would like to play as well. I know I've heard Eloy Jimenez as well could be a potential trade person for the White Sox. So, if we were to be able to get Luis Robert or Eloy Jimenez, I'd be okay with that. Both of those guys, when healthy.
Yeah,
can
that
smash the
would.
cover off the ball.
I mean, that would solve a lot of problems.
It
Absolutely.
would.
And
I see.
that's kind of the route that I'm thinking as well. I have a couple
Yeah,
different guys, but that's
you
the route
do.
I'm thinking as well. So keep
And
going.
then here is the other one. So this guy, we talked about him at the beginning of the episode. That would be Elias Diaz of the Colorado Rockies. Yes, he's a catcher. He's hitting 277 with 9 home runs and 45 RBIs. The Rockies are in last place. They can't compete in that division. And he helps an area of need. That need is catcher. Yes, we have Bo Naylor. I do not want to lose Bo Naylor. But if we have the ability to get the All-Star Game MVP and bring him to this team, you talk about if there's a roster spot open, you could play, especially having a third catcher in David Fry on the roster. One of them could DH, one of them could catch. I think Elias Diaz also can play a little bit of first base. That helps as well because Cam Gallagher, God love him, he's not going to move the needle offensively. He's not. He's another defensive catcher in the Roberto Perez, Austin Hedges, Francisco Mejia category, where they're more known for their defense than they are their offense. And if the Rockies are retooling, I mean, they already have Nolan Jones, a former Cleveland Guardian, who's playing very well. And it pains me to say that him and Will Bunsen and some guys that we had to say goodbye to are doing well. That's great. Change of scenery does something. But Elias Diaz could be that guy where then he can come in, play backup catcher. But then also he gives Tito a little bit more flexibility in the lineup. Cam Gallagher can go fishing or do something that he'd like to do or go sign on with another team. Because I'm sure he'd refuse a AAA assignment. But those would be the 3 guys that I would potentially target if I ran the Cleveland Guardians at the trade deadline.
If they're going to make a playoff push, I don't disagree that you probably want to upgrade backup catcher, but I think Diaz is a little too aggressive because I don't think you want to take away that many at bats from Bo Naylor. Like you don't trade for Diaz.
I don't think you would. I think if we would sell Josh Bell,
sure. But if you're buying, I don't think you get rid of Josh Bell. Like if you're doing a playoff push, you're not getting rid of Josh Bell. But I have a counter of.
You have a list.
I have a guy that I think fits what you're looking for.
Okay, let's
insurance policy catcher.
Okay.
He's on an expiring contract. He's got about $3 million left on his deal.
Austin Hedges. No. Nah,
but he's an old friend.
He's an old friend. Well, let's see. That would have to be
262 this season and has 8 home runs for a catcher.
Does he play in the friendly confines of Wrigley Field?
He does.
Oh, that would be animal. Yan Gomes. I'd be okay with Yan Gomes.
And I think that fits because he's a
backup catcher.
He's a backup catcher. He can hit for you. And then he's a free agent after this year. So
correct. And I think correct me if I'm wrong. I think that Yan Gomes has been DHing more for the Whites or for the Cubs than he has behind the plate because the Cubs have an amazing young catcher by the name of Miguel Amaya, and I think he's going to be their catcher of the future, similar to how we have Bo Naylor.
Yeah,
they've got a catcher that can hit, a young catcher, so I think they've been keeping Gomes around. I know Gomes can play first base. He's DH'd. So,
I'll start there just because we were talking about catcher, but now I want to move on to. I'm going to do this in order of want.
Okay, that's fair.
Can I interest you in an outfielder that would be second on the team in batting average and tied in first in home runs? Does that sound appealing to you?
Second in batting average? Oh my. Okay.
And tied for first in home runs.
How many home runs does this player have?
14 home runs.
Again, I believe that you're going to the Windy City and you want to go to the friendly confines of Wrigley Field again?
That you're thinking of Cody Bellinger?
I am.
And he's my next guy. That's
this first guy,
but similar molds. So this guy's younger, kind of an up and comer. He'll have 2 years
Okay.
of arbitration left. Lane Thomas from the Nationals.
Lane Thomas. Yes, I would be okay with this. He
Um,
fits that Guardians. He fits that Guardians mold.
absolutely fits the Guardians mold.
Yeah, I'd
Here's
agree with
his
that.
the two drawbacks. So he's had about a half a good year last year and a half a good year as the start of this year. So it's not as long of a time frame of good play that you would like to see. And he's not a great defender, but we don't need him to be a great defender. You have Miles Straw in those instances. So you
Right.
move Will Brennan to center field, as you mentioned. You move Quan to center field, as you mentioned, and then
Right.
he
You could
plays right
flip flop.
field.
Yeah.
And then Straw comes in as your defensive replacement a little bit later on. But Lane Thomas just fits. He'd be like third in the team and weighted on base average.
Okay.
And I don't
I'd
think
be
he'd
okay
be
with
crazy
this.
expensive. I
Well,
don't
he
think
is
it's
under team control, I believe, for a few more seasons. So he may cost us a little bit in young talent, but we have some to spare. And if he fits the mold, I mean, I'd be willing to take a flyer on him. Why
yeah.
not?
So Cody Bellinger, as you mentioned, he's another one. Plays center field,
He'd be my
plays first
number one
base.
right now.
Here's why I'm a little hesitant in Bellinger, because he has a mutual option for next year. I would
He's a
like that
rental.
control.
He's a team. He would be a rental
If
because
you could
he's not.
somehow before that trade get that option to be picked up both ways, I'd be much more on board with that, because
I would love to see Cody Bellinger hit. I think again he would be a rental player. He's not a guy that would sign with Cleveland long term. He is a big city guy. I know he's been linked to Boston. He's been linked to San Francisco,
Yankees,
the Yankees. I mean, Cody Bellinger would be a huge get. I would love to have him.
and
He's
same thing, plays center field, plays the outfield. You know,
he
he's
plays first base. I mean,
yes.
Bellinger can move around a little bit, and you can move him into the lineup where you need him.
Yeah. So my
Right middle.
only hesitation on that one is because of the contract situation.
Yeah, and
So
I
then
believe
I've got
the option is like 15 mil or something like that. It's a bit high, but we did give something similar to Josh Bell, so I mean, they may do it. Who knows?
then my last one is, I think, kind of a shot in the dark. The move is Guardians-esque if they can pull it off.
Yep.
Where this guy is young, he's kind of starting to flourish, and I
got it. I know exactly who you're talking about. Yandy Diaz, right? Can we bring Yandy back? No, sorry. Tampa Bay's not trading him. Foolish trade on our part. Anyway, I'm sorry. You said young and up and coming. I would take Yandy Diaz in a heartbeat. But
Yandy's not young anymore. He's 31.
I'd still take him because we traded we got Jake Bowers in return in that deal.
No, see, everybody says that. That's not the complete trade. We got Carlos Santana back in that deal. So yeah.
I'd
and
still rather have
Yandy didn't come on until last year.
Was
People
he an
want to be
all-star this year?
revisionist. He's an all-star this year, yes,
Yeah,
but
he's played pretty well. But anyway,
Santana was an all-star in those years that you.
What's he doing in Pittsburgh this year? Oh, we'll find out.
He's old now.
I know. We'll find out.
Yandy didn't do anything for those early years.
That's true. I don't know. Anyway, who would it be?
So same thing though. Center fielder, younger guy. The only thing is, you may say, well, why would this team even trade him? Because, and my answer is because I don't think they're going to be good for a while. And, and another one of those profiles that just seems to fit the Guardians, and it's Lars Nootbaar.
Of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
Now, the Cardinals general manager did come out and say that the team has underperformed this year, and they will be buyers and sellers at the trade deadline. They're going to look to improve their team. They are strapped financially. They have a lot of money tied into a couple of players that are beginning to age. That would be Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Lars Nootbaar makes a ton of sense in Cleveland. He's a left-handed hitter. He's got some wheels.
He's in the 61st percentile in average exit velocity. He hits it hard. He just doesn't hit hard for a lot of home runs yet. So, that's a launch angle thing. He only has 5 home runs, but his max exit velocity is in the 79th percentile.
Yeah.
So like he can hit the ball hard.
That's intriguing. I think if we could do something, St. Louis would be the type of team. I mean, we've already traded with them once this year. We've traded with them before. We got Oscar Mercado from them. We traded them, Richie Palacios, and Jose
Alex Call.
Fermin. And Alex Call went to the Nationals, did he not? Did we trade him to St. Louis?
Right.
I think, yeah, he went to Washington. So trade deadline's always fun. It's always interesting to see if the Guardians will be in on some of these top players or will they stand pat. It's going to be interesting. Again, this Pirate series, the series against the Phillies, this is going to tell us everything we need to know. If they can win them, they may make a small move. They may I mean, now do we technically need a starter? Because
I think
Logan Allen's coming back up. He's scheduled to start on Tuesday.
That was something I was going to mention. Like now that trading Bieber's off the table, like if we were going to trade Shane Bieber, or if we still can, I feel like it has to be a deal like with Clevenger, where you get another starter back, like maybe a younger, controllable starter, like you did with Cal Quantrill. So
possible. I mean, and Cal's ready to come off the injured list as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what this team does. It's always going to be interesting, but in order for us to even begin to think about what the postseason will look like, they need to start hitting and scoring runs now, something they're not doing. So the pitching can be as great as it can be, but your offense needs to put runs up.
Yeah,
and
the bullpen can continue to be near perfect and one or two ranked first or second in the league, but when you're living off 1-run leads, it's just not going to work out.
Nope. So join us in a week or so, probably 2 weeks from now. We'll see kind of where they are. We'll recap where they've been
and the moves they've made, because it'll be in August.
Yeah, and hopefully we're in much better moods and excited. The excitement from last year is not with this team, but who knows? Anything's possible. They can turn it on and show us that we're foolish. Until then, Brian, I know that folks that can listen to us on Spotify can watch us on YouTube. We usually include the link. But where can they find you personally on social media?
I am at Weather Shaw on Twitter, WXSHAW. Bryan Shaw on Facebook, Instagram, and now Threads. I don't particularly like Threads yet.
No, I don't like it yet either.
It's not timeline based. There's no hashtags. There's no trending topics. It's like kind of what's the point? But I'm there.
And you can find me. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Mike Vorhies. Guardians fans, buckle up. It's either going to be a season of coulda, woulda, shoulda, or it's going to be, well, we told you this would happen, and I guess in a few weeks we're going to find out.
I've got 2021 vibes. Just too many injuries because of the pitching. You know, too many pitching injuries, and that's the issue. You know, and then hopefully everybody's healthy by next year. You figured out this middle infield thing, and you retool for next year. I just feel like that's the way it's going. It just doesn't seem to be our year. I just can't see them getting super hot enough to where you're like, oh yeah, they're going to win a playoff series.
No, I'm not looking at some of the other teams and how they're doing in the American League. It's going to be a stretch. My World Series prediction is probably going to come back and bite me, but that's why it's a prediction. So until next time, friends, stay safe, be good to each other. Happy belated 4th of July, and we'll see you in August. Trade deadline time. Bye.